So you have a lot of dice to finish, but you probably don't want to go and polish all of them by hand. So this could be a good alternative for you, using a tumbler and some media. I used porcelain balls because I didn't want it to sand so much as just polish. I have those flat edges that I didn't want to become rounded, so I figured that would be the least abrasive. But it would be good to have something that sands a little bit and then polishes, then you don't have to do any sanding. But I didn't know how well that would work, so I just thought I would try the porcelain balls to see how good of a polish I would get. The setup for the tumbler was pretty easy. You stick some nuts in there, upside down, put the base on, and then screw it in. And that's pretty much all you have to do. You can use whatever media and polish you would like. This one I used Chemical Guys V34 for the polish. But the best guys, let me tell you, are you guys, the viewers, and most especially you, supporters. Thank you so much for your support. If you would also like to support this channel, feel free to go to the link in the description at ko-fi/geekhappens and either send me $1 or $2 for a Mountain Dew, or go ahead and sign up for a subscription and get access to my 3D models and other things. So when I put in this lead screw, I was worried that the dice would get scratched up on it, so I found a funnel at the store for like $1, and then I decided to cut it down to size and just use it to cover that screw. And it just happened to be that blue was the color they had, and it matches pretty well, so it looks like it's part of it. I then take my media, and they're 4mm, and I put those in, and then I put in a little bit of water, and I run that for a few hours just to get any defects out and get it nice and smooth before taking my dice that have just been pulled out of the molds, cutting off the sprues, taking off the flashing, and that's all I'm going to do before I put them in. I was going to use some bigger balls, but there weren't any available, but I don't think that it will get into the numbers, and maybe sand those out. So I put in my compound. I wasn't entirely sure how much to use, so I guessed. It worked okay. But put however much you feel you want to polish in there. That also probably depends on how many dice you're going to put in. I put in 4 jumbos and then maybe 1 or 2 sets of the normal sized, just to start and see how those would do. And I turned that on and let it run for 8 hours for this first batch. Once they were done, I pulled them out, and as expected, there's a bunch of polish caked into the numbers. They were a little bit hard to get out, so I just used a little scrub brush, and I was able to get most of it out. It was a little bit difficult to get it all out, but it worked well enough. And it looks nice and shiny and polished, but as you might be able to tell, all of the defects are still there. It didn't sand it at all, which is kind of what I was going for, but I thought it would do a little bit. But this is what we have with the polished on the left and the undone one on the right. And there you can see, still has the sprue marks and all the defects there, but they're just shiny now. So at least with this media, you will still need to sand before you put it in for the polish. But it does come out super glass-like clear. Very nice. I'm very happy with that polish. And I didn't have to do it by hand. However, that did take 8 hours. So what if I did it by hand and only did like a few minutes, which I normally would do if I was just polishing it by hand. So I do one real quick just to see how it would compare to one that was done in the tumbler with the media versus just using the cloth and polishing it as you would by hand. And it looks pretty similar. The one in the tumbler possibly a little bit better, but again, it will depend on the quantity of dice you do and how much hand polishing you want to do. So next I just try using the first grit of sandpaper and just sanding off the sprue and putting those in to see if that will polish out. After I pull those out, I decide to also put them in a baggie with some water and try using the ultrasonic cleaner to clean them out instead of using the brush to see if that will come out any better. These were also run in the tumbler for about 8 hours as well, same amount of time. I just wanted to see if it would take out that rough sanding. And then in the ultrasonic cleaner for about 2 to 3 minutes. It did a pretty good job of cleaning it out, but there was still some numbers that had the polish caked in it that I had to use a brush to scrub it out. So you're probably going to end up using a brush or a toothpick in the end just to get all that out of the numbers. Depends on your number depth as well. Sadly, it did not sand it out at all. Again, it was just a polish. However, I did put it in again later for 3 days, and it did finally polish out. But you probably don't want to spend that long anyway. After a few uses, I noticed that there was this gross green mixture of polish and plastic that was caked up around the edges and was getting in the numbers and even harder to get out. I think this was probably from the funnel that I cut, and so it was just the pieces as they were getting smooth. It doesn't seem to be doing that as much anymore, but I did have to take all the balls out and clean them out with water, get that taken off of them and filtered, and then put back in. But that's easy to do with this media. You can just clean the media and put it back in. So is it worth it? Maybe if you do a lot of dice and they are mostly clear, but I'll leave that up to you. Hope you liked this video and that it was somewhat helpful to you. If you liked it, make sure to click that thumbs up, go ahead and subscribe for future videos, and I will see you next time.